Right, you should be able to see that, which I think you can. So, hello, my name's Carol Theobald and welcome to the first Intercontinental Think Tank. Today's meeting is being recorded and we'll send you the link after the meeting. I'm going to hand over to Dilruba Ahmed from Bangladesh to go through the ground rules for today's meeting. So are you there, Dilruba?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Good evening. As you heard my name, this is Dilruba. We are a big group, as you know, working together, and so we have some ground rules. If you have any questions in between during the presentations, put them in the chat line. During discussions, you can use the hand icon, etc. First of all, the rules say, be polite and respectful. Keep microphone on mute unless speaking. Use chat if you have any questions. Questions will be gathered from the chat for the discussion throughout the session. Raise the hand icon to speak. Keep questions and comments short. Speak slowly and clearly. I hope I have made myself clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dilruba. That's wonderful.
My pleasure.
We have quite a journey today, and you can see all the different steps in the journey on the slide, but I'm going to hand over now to Pia Hultgren from Sweden, who will be doing the formal welcome and introductions. Over to you, Pia.
Thank you so much, Carol. Yeah, I'm so proud to be the one to present our little group, and I'm so happy we have gathered so many people from different continents today. The group that has worked together this presentation we're going through today, I will present, and I start shortly with myself. And when I present, I like you to just wave so people see who I'm talking about. So I'm Pia, I'm a nature lover. I've sailed many oceans. I've worked for 20 years in the military with weather and science. When the stars led me to speak about meteorology and climate for general people through the Swedish television, which I do now. I still serve as a major in the military reserve. And through my studies and work, I met most men. So Zonta has, since the millennium, been my way to meet and connect with interesting and wonderful people, women mostly. So next person I would like to present is Karin. Please wave. Karin, she's the great thinker and the brain in our group. Unfortunately, we cannot pay her for this. So she also works as a consultant for strategic communication and PR. Karin is a member of the Zonta Club of Berlin, District 27, since 2013. And Karin is a Zonta advocacy professional and put a lot of time and energy with Zonta Says No. Karin is humbly grateful for the gift of Zonta to bring together so many wonderful people with their diverse perspectives of talents from around the world to advocate for the rights of women and girls, and for being able to participate and contribute. Karin, you are such a clever lady. I asked you before this for telling me your hidden talents, and your answer was, this is the crux with my hidden talents. I have to keep looking for them. You're so wise. Karin, you are an avid reader, and watch out for her. She's also a great storyteller. Next person I present in the group is Bobby. Bobby Cardillo is the convener of the Zonta US Caucus and proud member of Zonta Club of Fairfax County for 24 years. She loves starting new ventures and getting things done by getting other people to buy in and contribute. That is, she's very good at nudging. If Bobby suddenly not react here in the Zoom meeting, she is probably busy painting a portrait of any of us. Bobby, we are so proud to have you in our group. Next person I present is Eric Elavia. Eric is busy working as a school principal, also a social worker, and would do a lot of work for uplifting women and children and students with special needs. Eric is a very social man and loves to spend time with his parents and friends. And you're a Zontian since last 14 years from a Zonta club of Bombay, and just left the governor of District 25. Eric is passionate about Zonta and truly believes in he for she. And watch out in Bollywood movies. Eric is an actor, and you might be lucky to see Eric in one of them. Jane Austin, hello. Jane is a member of the Zonta Club of Minneapolis and retired research and wildlife ecologist. Jane has a deep love of wildlife, wetlands, and science. Jane, you are so wise and always seem to be interested in whatever we are saying on the Zoom meetings. Next person, also from USA, Julie Trone. Julie is a Master of Education, currently President in Zonta Club of Fort Collins. Also active as Chair in District 12 Environment and Gender Equality Committee, and involved in the Zonta USA cooperation with Zonta and climate change. A gift for Julie would be a tube of glue, because what brings Julie joy is connecting with people and connecting with nature. And be aware, if you start to look sleepy here in the meeting, we might need to stand up and stretch, because Julie is also an advanced yoga teacher. So we have Angela. Angela from Kansas, USA, joined the army at 24. She worked in Germany, South Korea, has been traveling and looking and working with women and women's rights ever since. She is the one that really works hands-on with helping the planet. She has developed a pollinator's garden for bees, butterflies, dragonfly, and hummingbirds, and does not need Spotify because she has songbirds in her backyard. The beauty of this planet brings her joy. Angela, your enthusiasm, energy, and joy goes through the screen. And so we have Dilruba. Hello.
So,
You're an educator by profession. Your passion is to work with children psychologically, focusing on their creative thinking skills. Even though we come from so different culture, you will feel that Dilruba could be your sister. She understands and embraces diversity in religion and philosophy, etc. Dilruba belongs to the Zonta Club Chittagong in Bangladesh. Dilruba, I know you have a vision to see what is needed and what is going on. And with your joy and vigor that shines through our screens, we will all feel the power so we can, as a team, bring Zonta Says Now to an intercontinental campaign and do good for our planet. And so, the last person in our group here that started this thing today is Carol. The engine for all this we are doing today is geographically situated down under. Carol is the engine in this group and the founder of Zonta Says Now. Carol lives in Perth, West Australia, where she works to reduce greenhouse gases emissions in the transport sector. Carol gets her joy from meeting people around the world, helping others, playing with computers, and having fun. and she can do all of these things with Zonta Says Now. We are full respect for all you have done, Carol, and all that you are doing and will be doing. When the planet recently lost the Queen, we know you were in grief, but now you are our Queen. And your energy, Carol, it seems to be renewable, never ending. Thank you.
Wow, what an introduction, Pia. Well done. As you can tell, our Zonta Says Now working group is a group of very passionate women and men, and which is a great privilege to be part of. So what do we do next? Well, I'm now going to hand over to Angela, who's going to help us to do an activity where we can get to know each other. Now, this will be a bit of a challenge for Julie and I, because we're going to put you into breakout rooms in a minute, and we'll be figuring out how to do it. Okay, over to you, Angie.
Good morning, all. Good afternoon. Good evening. Hello. Well, we are now working to get better to know each other. And as a great opportunity, we all had our homework. So now we will get into our breakout groups and we will discuss our homework and what you did, what sparks your joy, what you think you are good at, and what gaps can you help fill in. And this is how we will begin to outline the climate action for each of our areas in our northern and southern hemisphere as we shrink this world into one and we improve the climate for everyone. Are we ready to go to our rooms?
Well, I'm going to do it into automatically assign the rooms. So you'll be 3 to 4 people in each room. And when it's ready to come back again to join the main group, we'll put a message into all of the rooms to say you've got 2 minutes left. Okay?
Thank you.
How long would you like people to have in the rooms, Angie? 10 minutes?
I think probably 6 minutes will do well, because
Okay.
with only 3 or 4, that'll give everyone a couple of minutes to collect our thoughts and have a great discussion.
Okay, fingers crossed. Let's see how it goes. We'll see you in the breakout rooms. Did you want to talk about your experience with Bobby in the rooms? Bobby as well?
Yeah, sure. Angela, do you want to go first? Are you there? Well, how about if I go first?
You go
Okay, I
first,
can.
Bobby. What was your experience like?
It was a lot of fun. Megan was part of our group, and at first she said she was just there to observe, but we got her involved in the conversation as we went along. Jane talked about her skills and what she brings to the table, writing and editing and sound science, and feels that it's very important that we communicate and that we only use factual sound science in doing that.
Yeah.
Now, if I've got our next participant, Osa Britt, I hope I said your name right. She is the District 21 Climate Committee chair in Sweden, and with a background in environmental issues. So she brings a lot of knowledge of not only the environmental issues, but how to impact policies in the country, how they're implemented. So she brings a lot of knowledge in this field already. I spoke about how I don't really have a lot of environmental knowledge. What I bring is organizational skill, perhaps, in trying to get people to do things and staying on top of things to make them happen. But I see this as a great opportunity. What brings me joy is the interconnectedness that we can have among our clubs and among members, you know, all the way down to the member level. We can have conversations together. And then what Megan brings to the table, she did end up speaking and contributing to our group by saying that she brings the communications piece and helps us to alleviate miscommunication. basically, we all feel like we need to be able to reach individuals within Zonta and find out what motivates them at a personal level so that we can get them all to participate in this. And it is open to every Zontian, so that is what we want to see. So that's basically what we came away with in our little group.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Angela, what was your experience? You're on mute.
Oh, you're muted.
In our group, we discussed what a wide range of climate issues you can have in one area. How you can have floods in one area and drought in the other, and the overwhelming impact of everywhere with the poverty, the life, especially in the rural areas. Our group was attended with someone from Stockholm, Bombay, Kentucky, and Germany. So we had a wide assortment of areas to focus on. Enthusiasm and knowledge is one of the things that we all bring. And our efforts to want to see change and the impact that we can have to contribute to that change.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. I was fortunate enough to meet Anastasia from Nigeria, from Lagos, and we were discussing floods because both of our countries have been experiencing floods at the moment. So I was saying it's water is bringing us together, but so it's an interesting time for us all. Anyway, thank you very much to everyone for participating in that little exercise to get to know each other this evening, this morning, wherever you are. So I'm going to hand back now to Bobby to talk about our purpose. Bobby, over to you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Now that we've had our little fun for the morning, it's time to get a little bit serious here. What are we here for? And what are we trying to do? Well, to start off with, Zonta Says Now is intended to take gender equal climate action by, first of all, educating girls, getting them to be able to, teaching them so that they can better adapt to the changing climate conditions, and they can mitigate whatever disasters come their way. They have some tools to do that. That they can maybe plan for more resilient communities in their local country or area. And finally, that they can personally choose a more sustainable lifestyle for themselves and their families. So that's the goal in terms of educating them. We also want to advocate for women's rights, to make sure women have a seat at the table. We try to eliminate some of the gender barriers in terms of land ownership, STEM education, access to all the financial resources, equal pay, and anything that stands in the way. And finally, we want to inspire more female leaders, starting first in their own communities, teaching them and helping them become leaders in their communities, but also in the business world, in their corporations, getting seats on boards, and also finally in government, in any place where the decisions are made so that women have an equal role in making the decisions, and that the decisions come out on a gender equal basis. So that's the overarching goal of Zonta Says Now. But let's look at this biennium. What are our goals this biennium? Well, first of all, we want to expand Zonta Says Now from where it originated in Australia, and as we've picked it up in the United States, and Eric has as well in India. And we want to expand it to every country and every Zontian. We want it to expand between, so we have conversations between the global north and the global south, so that we have conversations between the upper levels of Zonta and the member level of Zonta, and so that we have communications across all our committees and all our fields of specialty within Zonta. We want to expand it to everybody. We want to demonstrate how behavior in one part of the world could negatively impact the lives of people in another part of the world. And we can do that because we are in so many countries. We can do that just among our own members. We can share that kind of information about how people in one country are impacted by environmental decisions made in others. And finally, we can provide resources for our clubs and our members, and actually be like a library of where they come for information that can be shared both as background information and as ideas on things to do in order to take climate action. So that's specifically what our purpose is, and that gives us the framework, but now we have to go further and figure out the strategy on how we're going to accomplish that. So at this point, I would turn it over to Karen, who is our expert on strategy.
Thank you so much, dear Bobby. Yes, you all have received already our draft of the strategy, which is already gone to Zonta International Board, of course. And you know that this is a living document. So it will, of course, be modified, but it already gives us a very good foundation of what we are trying to do and of the exciting journey we are at right now. And I shortly want to give you an overview in case that you can't remember it all. And so here are the main points, and we started with the mission and vision at risk, of course. Then I will briefly introduce you to the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats we are facing and we have to deal with. And later on, I will hand it over to the wonderful Carol Theobald to explain us a little bit about the goals, the structures and the actions and the further activities. So next slide, please. Well, you know that Zonta's is now to gender equal climate action is a story that must spread fast. I think that you faced it already in the breakout rooms, how urgent this topic is. And the General Secretary Guterres pointed it very well when he said that we are at a defining moment now. Of course, Zonta is not an environmental organization and it's not Friday for Future, but we all know that women are mostly affected by climate change. And we take a short look at the globe here, and you see the blue and the red countries, and then you might know why it is so crucial to establish a dialogue in between the global north and the global south, because the countries of the global south, you see in red, have been more affected by the climate crisis than the countries of the global north already. And the global north is responsible for 92% of global carbon dioxide emissions. That's huge. And that's due to the industrialization and was found out by a study published in The Lancet 2020. Yes, we are at a defining moment, and Zonta has an important role to play as climate change impacts gender equality and human rights. So next slide. You are already familiar, of course, with our most important goals. The Sustainable Development Goal number 5, gender equality, and the crucial goal of eliminating violence against women. And these goals are really threatened because climate change is exacerbating gender inequality at an accelerating pace. So we we need an accelerator and amplifier too. And this is Zonta's is now to gender equal climate justice. Next slide, and I explain you why. What does our amplifier do? With Zonta's is now, we want to give voice and hearing to the human rights issue, gender equal climate justice, and the affected women and girls. It's to talk with them, not about them. And therefore, we need and exchange on the global level as well as on the national and the regional and the local level, and in cooperation with like-minded NGOs. And last not least, on all levels of Zonta's advocacy, up to the Council of Europe and the United Nations. So therefore, we will work very closely together with all of our committees. Zonta is now, as an amplifier, puts all of Zonta's activities on steroids. That's what Carol said. And I think I love this sentence because it's true. We are seeking, of course, for gender equal climate justice, but this gives urgency as well to gender equality and the elimination of violence and discrimination against women. And it amplifies, therefore, or thus, Zonta says yes to address the human rights, and Zonta says now to address the human rights threat of climate change, both of them. So what is our task now? We are now on the journey to roll out together Zonta is now and to establish and maintain a dialogue in between the global north and the global south, which is very exciting because we can learn a lot from each other. And of course, we make sure or have to make sure that every club who's interested can participate in this dialogue, whether on the global level or on the local level, and with lots of activities, so that we all together can live up to our international role and bring our statement on climate change to life. And you already might know this statement, and you can see here how we're meeting the challenge now. And you see that all of our activities are closely related to each other. Of course, every club still already is familiar with gender equality, this goal and the goal of elimination of violence against women and girls. And both goals are really connected because without one of them, we won't reach the others, and we won't reach as well the other 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. So gender equality, of course, if we aim at that, we rely on the SDG number 5 and go for gender equality in politics and diplomacy, in education, economy, environment, and social affairs, as well as in work and care, and in salary, finance, and land ownership. It's so crucial that we have a saying here, an equal saying like men. And it's also crucial that we therefore eliminate any kind of violence against women and girls, which is not only physical and psychological violence or domestic violence, it's as well structural violence. So one of the great challenges, of course, is the climate change. And so we have to look at all those very good frameworks already there, like Paris Agreement, the Sendai framework, and as well our statements. The statement Zonta made on the CSW 66 is a very important one, and I really recommend you to read it because it shows exactly why we are here together in order to push forward climate, gender equal climate justice. And it is committed to the SDG number 13, of course, and we have to look if in all of those things, or we have to watchdog if it is taken into account that we have parity, if it is taken into account that structural, physical, and psychological violence is that we are prepared very well, that we protect women from this. So this is really closely related. And yeah, next slide. What are our strengths, challenges, and opportunities to connect all the dots? First of all, we have a great strength thanks to Carol, who brought in 2 years experience of Zonta is now in the District 23, which covers most of Australia. And then comes Bobby within the play with the US caucus, of course, and Eric with the District 25. They delivered a very well competition on gender equal climate action. So we have a lot of experience already in this group. And of course, we have the Zonta International Statement on Climate Change to rely on, and a very good framework for action and tools, which Carol will also present later on much closer. And we already saw the presentations of Zontas is now at the CSW in New York this year, which was, yes, the initial point. I think everybody who attended this had very clear, oh, this is something we really have to drive on globally. And in Hamburg, we saw that the workshops were full of Zontians who really are concerned as well of the topics. Of course, we have challenges too, and I just want to mention one, which is a crucial one. It's the generation gap, which is growing in Zonta. And the younger generation, of course, is much more into subjects like gender equality, like every advocacy, I think, advocacy topic we have then into terms of service. So, and they are representing, the youngers are representing the generation who suffers the most from the impacts of climate change. So we are really in need to get their voices heard equally. So we really have to establish an intergenerational dialogue with this topic. And the new biennium, that's a great opportunity because it brings a lot of new energy. And we see that in almost all countries, the awareness of climate change has increased. And one of the wonderful things, it is just one wonderful thing, of course, of the pandemic is that we learned that we can conversate digitally. And this gives us a great opportunity in order to roll out things globally, to discuss in there, to exchange experiences and to learn from each other. So there, of course, are also some threats we have to meet and we have to be aware of. And these are reputational risks if we are not acting sustainably, for instance, and if we are not adding our voice at the United Nations and the Council of Europe. So therefore, it's really, really important that we are working close together with all the committees and give our recommendations and have an exchange. And yes, poor communication is always a threat. If we are not informing and exchanging properly, then this could be a threat too. So we will meet that with a very good framework for action, I think. Wow, so how to get it done? Now I would like to hand it over to Carol, and not to forget to say that, of course, the goals are being a reliable partner as Zonta, raise awareness among decision makers, giving a voice to women and girls, and never talk about them, but always with them. So thank you for listening. And Carol, thank you so much. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Karen. Karen is quite a wonder with her communication skills. Anyway, what we want to look at is our rollout structure. Bobby mentioned this earlier about our different levels of advocacy across Zonta. Zonta has many advocacy committees. You may have them in your club, you may have them in your district or your area, and they are at the international level as well. In some countries, they've brought together different districts or different areas to provide a national voice, as in the USA caucus and the Union of German Zonta clubs. So that's really good to get a national voice happening. But what do we do with the think tanks? The think tanks are opening up a new space where we can exchange information, where we can be inspired by different topics, by different speakers, and we can feed information back to the advocacy committees at all levels of Zonta. We have think tanks in district level, like we have a think tank in District 23 that covers 4 states in Australia. We have the think tanks in the USA, And we have our first meeting today of the Intercontinental Think Tank. So at the Intercontinental Think Tank, we can discuss international issues. At the caucuses and the Union of Zonta Clubs, they can discuss issues that impact on a national level. And at the districts, you've got a more regional conversation happening. And it's really good fun in the think tanks because it's not like a meeting, it's an exchange of ideas and enthusiasm and energy. And we have Zontians and we have supporting Zontians, we have Golden Z Club members, so we can have the intergenerational conversations by people that are really interested and passionate in these subjects. When we look at the purpose of the think tank in the strategy, it covered quite a lot of issues. How we can strengthen our advocacy at all levels of Zonta. We can advance the Sustainable Development Goal number 5, have that global dialogue north and south, collaborate with non-government organisations, raise awareness of global impacts and local actions, and inspire and motivate. And we have the tasks that we can do. And working in conjunction with the advocacy committees at all levels of Zonta, we can identify national opportunities. We can use the art to connect our hearts on the issues. We can identify problems to discuss internationally. We can identify speakers for international webinars, experts, and have influencers, people that know about topics we can invite to talk to us. We can create a library of globally useful resources, and we can identify and recommend actions to be taken by Zonta International and generate statements, for example, in the future for CSW. And we're hoping as well to prepare a global event before COP28 in Dubai in 2023. Now, won't that be fun to do something at the international level? So our actions. We're going to have the think tank, the Intercontinental Think Tank, and today we've got our kickoff meeting. We'll be developing our web presence so as we have all the information that we need to distribute to clubs and to members to get them touched, moved and inspired in this area. And we can also having the virtual art exhibit concept so that we can actually find a way of tapping in to the Zontians who are very talented in the art area, so as they can share the emotional side of what we're dealing with. We can extend our activities. We'll be able to arrange presentations, workshops and webinars to increase our knowledge around gender equal climate action. And it would be a good start to plan now to do something from COP28. We need to keep our eyes and ears open and share climate-related activities and news that impacts women and girls. To do this systematically, we need to have a communication plan and know how to develop and distribute press releases. Social media is an excellent way of sharing our stories, especially during the 16 days of activism and around International Women's Day. However, we need to know how to write these articles and when to post them, so we can all help each other to do this well. So our next steps. Here we are in October. We've done this draft strategy. We're having our first Intercontinental Think Tank. We hope in the next few weeks to launch the website or have a landing page on the Zonta International website. And then we hope to develop the communication plan that includes things like the frequency of our meetings, how we communicate with the advocacy areas of Zonta International, key information resources, and any documents that we want to translate so as they can go onto district websites. So we need to have those materials for clubs early next year, so as they're all ready for clubs to use in preparation for the Commission on the Status of Women and International Women's Day events. So what do we need to do? We need to act now. We need to create a space, which is the think tank, so as we can build our relationships between the global north and global south, so we can learn and share information. And we can identify areas where we can make a difference. We need to work with Zonta's wider advocacy activities. That's the Zonta International Advocacy Committee, the United Nations and the Council of Europe. And we need to provide information and materials for districts and clubs so they can educate and raise their voice on gender equal climate action. And we also need to have fun, because to be sustainable, we need to enjoy what we're doing. And we've got a great group of women and men here, so we can do this. So did anyone have any, Pia, are you watching the chat line? Have there been any questions come through so far?
No questions so far, thank you.
No questions so far. If while we're talking you have any questions, please put them in the chat line. And if we're not able to answer them today, we will answer them by email later on. Okay, so please don't be frightened to do that. Now, we've given you a lot of information to absorb, so we're going to give you a 5-minute break now, so as you can go and have a drink and go to the toilet and come back again to stretch as we move along. I'm going to hand over now to Jane Austen, and I'll just check that you're there. Are you there, Jane?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, great. Okay, over to you to talk about the webpage document.
All right. Well, thank you, Carol. I know that you've had a bit of time to absorb all of that great information that Karen and Carol have put forward in our strategy to bring Zonta's climate action statement to life. And as they mentioned, a more important part of that is to have a presence on the Zonta International's website. As part of the invitation to this event, you received among the documents information about that draft web page. And here we're going to give you a pretty quick overview of it. Again, this is just a start, a framework, and we're looking for your feedback. Our first, the front page of our web page, the About tab, just provides a broad overview of Zonta Says Now and how it fits with our core vision and our 2 main initiatives, using the same graphic that Karen showed earlier. Zonta Says Yes to gender equality, and Zonta Says No to violence against women, all of which are working together to ultimately working for a gender equal, sustainable world. Next slide. The history tab is to provide insights to just how did we get to this stage. It started with, of course, the District 23's think tank back in October of 2020. Going through the Zonta Seminar on Climate Action, the first meeting of the USA Zonta Caucus think tank that we had initiated. And then, of course, our presentations at CSW in Hamburg, all of which is leading up to this stage, the formation and very first meeting of this Intercontinental Zonta Says Now think tank. Next slide. A key part of our webpage course will be actions on the important things for people to be able to figure out what are we doing and why are we doing it. So the how we take actions is important that we keep in mind the statement on climate change that Zonta put out and those fundamental recommendations that should provide the foundation for everything we do in Zonta Says Now and our club activities, both the call to governments and working with our governments to address those issues as laid out in those recommendations, and also Zonta's call to its membership on the different actions they can take to raise awareness, to include gendered climate change advocacy in our advocacy plans, promoting education, and overall advocating for national policies that consider women's economic opportunities. So keep these in mind as a foundation of all of our activities, and we could expand in this within this part of the website with more actions that build upon these core recommendations. Next slide. Of course, another important tab is resources. This is a place where we can share documents, tools, websites, and other resources that members can use to learn of what they can do and where to find information about it. Provide sound facts and figures so that we are using reliable, trustworthy information. And of course, also links what's happening around the world, sharing information so we have a better sense of linking across our different areas, global north, global south, and just what's happening within our areas that really resonate with our members. And as a start here, we're including links to the guiding document for Zonta Says Now, the District 23 website with all its really great abundance of resources, information that they've already put together, and to the climate action websites of the USA Caucus and District 12. We envision this table will be continued to be updated and expanded with new information and resources as they're developed and contributed by Zontians. Next slide. This tab provides a really a description of the key organizational aspect of Zonta Says Now, the role of think tanks, providing a broader forum at the level of caucuses, unions of clubs, or districts that can then reach out to all members. We show as an example of the structure, the relationship for the USA Caucus think tanks to the Zonta USA Caucus, but also engaging individuals, local clubs, and reaching out to other districts within the US. This page is meant to inspire others to develop their own think tanks as appropriate to their region, to build awareness and engagement, and ultimately motivate Zontians to take action as appropriate in their area. Next slide. Finally, a tab on virtual art exhibits. Visual arts can be a really powerful tool, images that engage our emotional responses that can lead to a different and more intuitive understanding of the links between us, our actions, and our planet, sensitizing us in a different way than all the numbers and scientific graphs can do, except maybe for those of us who are deep into science. The red image here was the winner of a digital art contest, Digital for Climate, run by the UN Habitat and exhibited at the 26th UN Climate Change Conference. It features someone holding a cigar and an improvising drinking material in the shape of a fishtail. That is a plastic bag with a straw. And these are items known to pollute oceans and pose harm to aquatic creatures. But it speaks to, the issues we are facing, and the red, of course, truly brings out the emotions. In this tab under visual arts, we envision sharing artwork that really touches the emotions and enhances our understanding and effects of climate change on women and girls and the effects on the earth. Our images here can be used in our awareness, advocacy, and education campaigns, but it also stimulate the artistic side and talents of our members. So next slide. So ultimately, we need to work with Zonta International to more fully develop the Zonta Says Now website. We need to identify information that we want to see on this website. And we're looking for you as and the broader Zontians from around the world to see what does it need to contain, and also identify key documents that may need to be translated. So those in countries and in areas where English is perhaps not as strong, and some of our jargon or material needs more appropriate transmission into the native languages. Oh, next slide. So finally, opportunity for discussion, comments. After you've seen and absorbed here, especially with the website, are there sections that are missing that we need to be added? What sort of information would really be helpful to carry this forward for your region?
Good.
I really look forward to your feedback. How can we develop this further? Again, as Carol mentioned, we are hoping to roll this out sometime in November, but it's going to be a continued development with materials and structure of the website, which we hope to have as a standalone site, sort of as Zonta Says Now has as its own source, and if we could do the same for Zonta Says Now at an intercontinental level.
Excellent.
So comments.
I notice in the chat line that Christine's made the comment, I'm thinking about how everything is connected and the importance of a peaceful environment in which to begin to address climate change and gender equality. Should we mention the goal for peace in our webpage? What a great idea.
That it is, yes.
Any other comments? Yeah, little clap there from Julie.
Oh, Actually, I think I was trying to raise my hand and I clapped, but I do clap to what Christine has to say. I think that is a really brilliant addition because, well, you know, we're all affected by the war in Ukraine, but obviously the people of Ukraine are affected so greatly, and that not only exacerbates peace around the world, but it exacerbates violence against women, and it adds the challenge of climate change and violence against women. So I think that's a really good conversation topic for us to put into what we're doing.
Yeah, we also need to recognize, though, you know, those of us in the global north are definitely focused on the Ukraine, but the news that we tend not to see as much in the global north, but the violence across Central Africa and parts, you know, the issues in Bangladesh and Myanmar, they just do not have the bandwidth, if you will, to deal with climate change on top of the existing violence and wars and conflicts in those areas. In the meantime, they're also getting floods and severe droughts while they're trying to just struggle to make a living in the face of conflict.
Exactly. It's another amplifier, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you, Jane. And if you have any more comments, just pop them in. Oh, hang on, we got here. I may have missed it, but is there a section in the website for summaries of successful projects that Zonta was involved in? Yes, that's a good point, Eileen. We can make sure that we include that in it as well. So, so that's sort of stories, projects. Excellent. Good. Thank you. Thank you. So keep adding your comments and we'll make a note of them all at the end of the meeting and to include in future documentation. So now we're going to pass over to Julie, who's going to lead us through how the think tank will operate. Over to you, Julie.
Thanks, Carol, and thanks everyone for your participation and for being here today. Really means a lot to all of us. Jane talked a lot about how the intercontinental think tanks are formed and what our goals are with those. The one we have here today is for discussion and for development of the whole idea of Zonta Says Now in relation to putting it as an international platform. So if you think about what we're doing now, and then think about how we can evolve into think tanks that build awareness, that build climate action, that actually speak to what we did earlier with our breakout rooms. What brings us joy? What are we good at? What climate action do we think we can participate in? This is where we want to evolve to. So in order to do that and to continue the development phase, which is our current Intercontinental Think Tank, what we'd like to do is take a few polls and maybe discuss how this will work for all of us, because for some of us, it's very early in the morning. For some of us, it's very late at night. And frequency of think tank meetings and when they are held and how often is very important so that we can all work together. So let's start with the frequency. I'm going to put up a poll, and if you'll just answer the question, and let me get to the question. Here we go. So I'm going to launch this, and the question will be, how often would you like to meet? And this is for our think tanks for the development phase and then the future. So consider both when you answer this question. All right, we have a winner. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Looks like everyone voted. And I'm going to share the results. All right, it's almost a tie between every month and every 2 months, and that makes perfect sense. Everyone has their own schedule and what works for them. So we will actually, our smaller work group will go back and see how that works. Let me just throw out an idea. So every month we could have a think tank. Every 2 months we could maybe repeat a think tank. So there's all kinds of ways we can do that. And if anyone wants to put in the chat or raise their hand about what they think it would look like, that would be really lovely. So let's just do that for the next 1 minute. Anybody want to talk about that?
Yes, could I please? This is Dilruba.
Yes. Hi, Delruba, please.
Yes, one meeting per month is good for the working group. And if we have the repetition every second month, I mean, once a month, we can have the second month. In case we miss the first meeting, we are always there for the second and we can make it up. So if you have frequently that once a month for us, and again, the same repetition the next month, others can also join. I think we could do that.
And we may find that we want to meet once a month as we get going. And then as we find we get developed, review it after we've got some of our materials developed and we've got to know each other. Because we may find that we need to develop some subgroups to do particular projects that come out of different issues. So, you know, so we could do something along that line.
Yes, then we have more projects to work with, then we can meet often. But if we don't have so much, then we can repeat the similar meeting the next month. I think like that. Thank you.
I just saw a chat from Jane about district advocacy chairs being invited. Now, I know all over the world, Zonta doesn't have districts everywhere, but there's areas and club advocacy chairs. So the thought is to invite them too. I think that's a really great idea. That is the purpose of creating action, is advocacy. So I think that's a wonderful idea. So in order to be inclusive, we need to think about how these meetings are launched in the East, in the West. Time zones are a factor. Therefore, I would like to open up if anyone feels like a duplicate meeting would serve them well, so that we can offer a meeting in the East or in the West, or would a recording help? So if you cannot make a meeting, you could go to a recording. So if anyone wants to put that in the chat or even unmute and tell us what you think.
I like the idea of the alternate one meeting for the East, one meeting, the next one for the West, with the recording being the alternative for those who can't participate.
Thank you, Bobby. That's very inclusive. I like that idea as well. And I have in the chat meeting every month and repeat every 2 months sounds good. Alternating time zones, that is a really good idea too. So now we have a lot of information, and I'm going to move into length of meetings. This meeting will probably last approximately 2 hours. Sometimes that's too long for people. 1 hour and 30 feels better. What I'd like to see is what you feel, and I'm going to launch another poll. You can pick 1 hour, 30 minutes or 2 hours, or other, and think about how the development of Zonta Says Now versus the future, when we have experts and discussions and advocacy brainstorming, etc. How does that work? So think broad and wide about length of meetings and what you think would be helpful. So here we go. Okay. Looks like an hour and 30 minutes is the winner. 2 hours is actually fine too. Sometimes an hour and 30 minutes is all our brains can really process. Thank you, Eileen. We just got a chat that she likes the way this meeting is running with a break in the middle. I too feel that that's super important to have a little bio break to get some water or use the restroom. Thank you, Lotta. You agree too. Wonderful. 2 hours, I think, is probably one of those types of meetings where we have a lot to do, a lot of interaction, a lot of activity. Oh, you agree, Dilruba? Did you want to
Yes.
talk more about that?
So 2 hours is fine when we have a lot of things to discuss. Otherwise, we could do it in 1.5 hours. I should think so.
Mm-hmm. Here are our results. So it's like 2/3, 1/3, but I'll have to agree that it depends on the format and the
Yes,
and
exactly.
the topic. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Thank you for that. So format. I don't have a poll for this, and feel free to speak about format. But what we were thinking is this is moving forward as we develop think tanks that address climate action. We and in my breakout room, we talked about awareness raising. I'm sure many of you did, and focusing on the global north and the global south and having dialogue in between, or focusing on separate continents, your region, what's going on in your region, maybe Zontians in action, so that we can continue to raise awareness and discuss what's happening and what needs to happen, is a wonderful aspect of adding to our format. And then also webinars with guest speakers. Does anyone have a third idea that would be interesting and build more awareness and build more action, create more activity amongst club members? Does anyone have a third? You can put it in the chat or unmute. Oops. Panel discussion. Thank you, Faria. Surveys and discuss them. I like that too, Carol. Thank you. So those are 2 excellent ideas.
I would add region-based, because certain areas, certain regions suffer more. And
Yes.
the format should be made accordingly, that for regions who are suffering more, this is the type of action that we need to focus on, and also build a lot of more awareness. And for regions that are not really affected, but they are affected by war or other natural calamities, so we could plan a different format for that region. Because if the format is same for all, then sometimes it may, be complicated. Because I would say, like in Bangladesh, if we are going to focus on North and South, and then we might think that we need to focus more on our own problems, and we have to, create more strategic planning to solve these problems. So I should think that we could, plan it regionally.
I like that
works
idea.
out.
You know what? One thing that came to me in my heart when you were saying that, Dilruba, is not only does it do everything that you just described, but it helps us build compassion for each other.
Yes.
For example, when we're in a region that has been struck with drought, but then others are in a region that are not, it's sometimes hard to break out of our own bubble and understand that and find empathy and compassion for what's happening. And to me, that builds action, and it builds the need for spreading more awareness.
Awareness.
Thank you.
I was going to piggyback on that just to say, I think we also have to try to be a little adaptive when there is a major calamity in some part of the world. I think we need to make room to discuss that. Particularly if we have Zonta members who are impacted by that climate disaster.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. I'm going to talk about what I see a lot of in the chat. So Sheila, I'll address your spread the word to everyone in a second. Daisy says she agrees with regarding the idea of region-wise, as many regions in India are affected differently and severe in some places. Christine mentions that we should devote some time to how we in Global North can assist Global South. And that's part of that compassion building and connecting element in the think tanks. So thank you for that. Anastasia says questions and feedback from clubs and districts. I totally agree. I just sent one out to our club today to ask them, what do they know about food insecurity and food sustainability, so that we could come back to the caucus and create our think tank on food sustainability and security. So thank you for that, Anastasia. So
Julie, if I can make a comment.
Yeah.
In my discussions, it's been amazing how many people don't truly appreciate how globally we are all interacted with the climate and with the impact on agriculture and food. And it's always amazing when you talk about when Ukraine started, they said, how much wheat comes from there? And then in India, look at all the cotton that comes from there. And I think understanding and helping everyone appreciate that this is a global impact, and it impacts every region economically, as well as what it does to the gender imbalance. So I think it's helping to shrink the reality that everything that touches the earth touches each of us at some point or another.
Thank you, Angela. So well said. And it does shrink the reality, and it does connect us all to understand that our little region is fully connected to every other region. And that's what I love about Zonta International, how connecting we all become as a whole group. And then we bring it back to our smaller groups. So thank you for that. So let's go to who can attend. So let's think about it this way. For this particular international work group, this was an invitation only. So as we do the development, we really, really want your input, whether you send email to Carol or I or one of our other work group members to express more ideas, more thoughts, whether you put it in the chat today or in future development think tanks. But when we come to the evolution of think tanks to build awareness, to have questions and panels and connect us from region to region, what do you see? Do you see inviting others that are not Zontians? Because for me, I think that's a great membership driving opportunity, which is another aspect of Zonta International's goals this year or this biennium. So what do you say? Let's put it in the chat. Who can attend? Should we limit it to Zontians? Should we have friends of Zonta, community members, community leaders that you want them to understand more about what we're trying to say? So go ahead and put that in the chat. Or if you want to go ahead and talk about that. It's awfully quiet on my end.
I
Okay,
would say, I think we should have invited guests, people that we individually would invite. And then if they're going to be a speaker, or if we have a speaker, have them invite their group if they're part of a group.
I like that very much.
Like, a bit like we do with
Yes.
our own club meetings. We bring our friends to our club meetings as well, don't we?
Mhm. Yes. And when we have guest speakers in our club or with our district Action for Environment and Gender Equality Committee, we invite everyone in the district, and they can invite anyone. Karen has her hand raised. What were you going to say, Karen?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was too quick with my with my chat. Yeah, I just wanted to say, yeah, if there are special topics which might interest experts we know, yeah. So politicians we know, people we know, then of course we could invite them, and also to in order. I love the idea of Julie to try to extend our network and to invite people to know Zonta better and get involved with us and becoming probably a member. So I think that's a very interesting thing to have experts we know. If we see, okay, the regional topic in Nigeria or in Bangladesh or name it, could be interesting for this expert or the other. So we have to invite her or him. Yeah, that would be great.
Wonderful. I think most of us feel the same. I've noticed in the chat, Faria says guests at speaker events, and that's just what all of us are talking about. So thank you for being like-minded. And then Anastasia talks about include non-Zontians who have knowledge of environment and climate change so we can collaborate, share ideas, and enhance the solutions. Well said, Anastasia. I think that's a really important aspect of what we're doing. It's not just Zontians talking to Zontians, it's Zontians coordinating the world action, regional action, local action. So thank you. Okay, so that is a great snapshot, a formulated snapshot of how the think tank will operate. I really appreciate that. I have if we can have the next slide, I want to present a tool that you can use right now in your clubs, your region, your district, your union. And we launched, Carol launched this right away, and we've worked together to expand it. And this is actually not only what you can do at your club in your advocacy plan, but this is how the think tanks would develop for each one. So if you look at the first column where it says create a gender equal sustainable world by, the three areas underneath we've been talking about, but this is really Zonta: educating, advocating, inspiring. And those three areas is what we want to always have as part of what we do. And how do we do that? Well, the top column, or the top row, excuse me, the top row explains how we do that. And this is how we plan our think tanks. Who do we want to speak? And where do we find accurate information and the right people to present facts? And then for us, how do we lead by developing inspirational thinking, which is questioning, asking questions, finding answers, and inspiring every generation to do something. Using the diagram we used earlier is a wonderful way to lead by example, the one with the 3 circles. Using our voice, advocating and collaborating. We're doing that right now today. And I think this is a great framework that we can always rely on when we want to build an advocacy plan and create our think tank. So I just wanted to share that tool with you. Carol will be sending you a copy of this after the meeting today. So if you want to just jump right into it, you can. That would be wonderful. Does anyone want to add to this? Oh, Kay's here. Kay, thank you. Okay, I have one more comment I want to add. Is Kay Meyer said, perhaps also gradually expand and invite representatives from other NGOs and those not on the same page. That is really an important point, because it's really important to understand what other people think. And that's a really great part of gathering our facts so that we can address the disconnect. And maybe something that we haven't considered because we haven't talked to someone who doesn't really agree with us. To be able to do that helps us be more considerate, but also develop a richer plan. So thank you, Kay. That's wonderful. All right, so that is our framework. I hope I didn't take up too much time. If anybody wants to have any more discussion, we'll take the next minute to open the floor.
I would like to add, Julie,
Yes.
when collaborating, I should say that collaborating with like-minded organizations who think that, you know, that this climate is also a gender issue. Like Rotary, because there are men working there now, many women have joined Rotary. So we need to also, you know, create an awareness amongst them. That's not only food, hunger, and polio that are affecting people. It's the climate change is affecting both of the genders. It's not a neutral thing. It is affecting both. So we could add in our collaboration like-minded organizations so that we can create, you know, an impact on the society. I would think like this, if we could do that in our clubs, it would be wonderful. And if we have experts talking, I just want to say that last biennium, end of biennium, at an area meeting, we had invited an environmentalist to come and speak on the impact of climate change on gender issues. And she spoke so well. She really created such a stir among the minds of everyone present that if you don't take action, like they talked about my city, Chittagong, if we don't clear the embankments, if you don't have green around green environment around, this city will go underwater. It was a scary thing. So we must have experts coming into our programs and discussing the effects of climate change. I would like to think that. Thank you.
I love that idea. And that offers us the opportunity to ask, have you considered women and girls with your climate action decisions, which really may sound like you're putting them to task, but it's actually something that doesn't normally occur around the world, that with a gender unequal world, that most decisions are made without considering what happened, what the benefits or what the threats are to women and girls. And that's a really important issue, Dilruba. Thank you so much for that. I wanted to add that gender equality means men too.
Yeah.
So to be able to educate them on what our needs are is super important. Anastasia has her hand raised. Let's go ahead and hear from her.
Thank you, Julie, for the informative and insightful discussion we've had so far. Yeah, I just wanted to add that since we are concerned about the impact of climate change on the lives of women, possibly we can look at collaborating and bringing on board relief agencies like Red Cross and relevant UN agencies, so that relief can get to the women in time to be able to build their life back better and faster. So if we can look at also bringing on board these relief agencies at the international level and also at the local level, so that the women that are impacted by climate change can have the needed help they need to be able to move on with their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I think that's an incredibly...
Very well, thank you.
Oh, good, thanks. That's so important to consider as relief agencies. Disaster I can never say that word correctly, preparedness and disaster management is incredibly important. And from the work we've done in our district, we've found that it is global how women and children are not as prepared and are more vulnerable to the disasters that are occurring, the climate disasters. Having relief agencies hear our voice and know what women need, and maybe can develop, as a result of our voices, better disaster relief would be incredible solution. All right, so we have Christine's hand raised. Go ahead, Christine.
Thank you. I've recently been once again involved in some work possibly involved in some work in Fiji. Now, I mentioned that only to say that Fiji, I discovered, has a fantastic climate change act. Now, my background's law, climate change legislation, but it also has, again, adopted recently, a pretty good gender and social inclusion policy, which has started to permeate their legislation as part of, it's permeated the Climate Change Act of 2021. So my thinking, the reason for mentioning that is I thought, well, one of the things we could advocate for is getting strong gender and social inclusion policies at national level in each country. That means then that that policy will have to be taken into account in everything the governments do, every decision they make, and it may well help. I know, you might say, oh, well, she's just because she's used to be a lawyer, but that kind of policy and legislation sets the scene for what is done, and we could perhaps, it's one of the tools that we might use or might encourage Zontians in various countries to look at advocating for.
Yes, excellent point. I think we can all agree.
Yes, I'm so happy that you say that, yeah. And we can have an exchange on all those treaties which already exist. We also have them in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to be watchdogged, of course, yeah, if they are really implemented or not. But it's good that you say that, and that we have an exchange on that and on the best practices of this, and thinking about how we can really, probably extend this. Yeah,
I like that idea. What that speaks to me is showing our Zontians all over the world how many countries are actually considering or have already implemented policies such as these and legislation such as these, as well as legislation in countries that are protecting natural environment. I think they go hand in hand. So thank you, Christine and Karen, for that. Okay, so we are going, I thank you all for your comments, for those of you who did, and those of you who are processing and thinking of more ideas and comments to provide us later. This is always going to be a safe place for us to talk and express our ideas, and know that even if you don't agree with an idea, you're safe expressing it. We're going to share links to the slides and a recording after the meeting. And I think we're going to have to move on to Carol, who's going to talk a little bit more about tools. So thank you all for listening to me today and participating.
Thank you, Julie. She's very good at bringing everyone's views out. Thank you so much. I'm just going to touch on the tools today. You've already seen this tool that you used earlier on as your homework before we started today's think tank. And if you found it useful, just let me know in the chat if it's something that you might use with the members of your own clubs. And it's always good to get the feedback. I'm very interested to know how many of you are actually using the Zonta app, because it would be a very good forum for us to actually meet in between meetings electronically. So we can actually have our own little forum online with the app. So we can share our issues and raise issues that we want to discuss at the next think tank meeting, for example. So I'm just going to put a poll up just to see if I can figure out how to do it. Here we go. This poll is, first of all, do you use the Zonta app? So just if you can answer your questions in here, we can just see how many people actually do use the app or have used it already. How many have used it? Yes. So it's good feedback for Zonta International to really know how Zontians are getting used to using this app, because it's a very good tool, but we just have to know how to use it. Okay, so we just end the poll. Most people have answered. We have, from the results, we have 16 out of the 23, 70% are using the app and 30% aren't at the moment. Okay, so that's good for us to be aware of that. And so it would be interesting to know, let's take a picture of that. Also be good to know if you are not using the app, if you do not use the app, is it because you cannot access the Zonta app on your phone, you do not understand how to use the Zonta app, or you're already using it, so doesn't apply to you, or if there's a different reason why you don't use the app? So it's just good to know those people who are physically are not able to access the Zonta app because of either difficulties with their phone or difficulties with the local providers. Okay. All right, so other reasons. If there are any other reasons, can you put the reasons in the chat line? Because it would be really good to understand why people aren't able to use it, because then we can actually find ways of finding solutions for you. Okay, we've got one who's had trouble setting up the app, maybe forgot password. Okay, so these are the sorts of things would be really practical to know, and if we can find a way of finding the solutions. I'll just end the poll and just share the results. So we had one that can't access the app on their phones. Most of them are using it already, and 40% are for other reasons. So we need to know what those other reasons are so that we can find the solutions. Okay, so please email and let us know, and I'm sure that Megan will be really interested to find out how we can solve that problem. And so that's a very practical thing that we can do. So using the Zonta app is something which is a simple thing that we can do to have our own conversations in between meetings. Okay, so good. Megan's put up a link here. So if you need support in accessing or using the app, you can email PR at, oh, my chat line just moved, PR@zonta.org. That's a nice, easy email address. So, okay, and we've got a question from Marie, who's a Golden Z Club member. She cannot log in, doesn't have a Zonta account. Now that's something which we need to perhaps look at to see if we can include Golden Z Club members who are part of the group. So we'll have to check that up with Megan to see what we can do there. Okay, well, I'll move on to the next tool. I'm just going to show you the District 23 website. I don't know how many of you have actually been on it, but it gives you an idea of the sorts of things that that can be done. In our particular website, we talk about how we take the action. we have a bit of description about Zonta and climate change and joining the community as such. We have our posts that we do, but what I wanted to show you here was our publications, because we have over the last couple of years, we've developed quite a lot of publications. This was actually the presentation that we gave in Hamburg, the joint presentation given by the people presenting here today. This was the worksheet that we used in Hamburg. This is a framework for action we use in Australia. And these are leaflets that we developed for how we can, these are to be read online, not to be printed out. So we want to be sustainable, on how we can champion a sustainable gender equal world. We have sustainability principles that we can apply for clubs and individuals. And we have the 5 R's guide on waste management: reduce, reuse, recycle, rethink, and repair. We also talk about investments, when your climate risk is investment risk, and also how to invest in climate exchange fund traded funds. So we're trying to give the knowledge of what's there. And this was an early presentation that we did that had lots of links in it. We also, in our District 23 think tank, for example, we have links to all of our meetings. So this was the meeting we had yesterday. So this is actually the slides from the meeting that we had in Australia yesterday. And we have all the previous meeting notes that we have on the site. So we've had quite a few think tank meetings. But I also want to show you our newsletters. So we have 2 monthly newsletters. So this was the last one, for example, which was all about communication and climate change. So how you see we're using the same tool that we had here, and climate circles that are done with the All We Can Save group, and Climate for Change climate conversation program. And as a result of our think tank meeting yesterday, we're going to engage with this organization to help us learn how to have effective climate change conversations. So there's games that you can do, art, and COP27. So there's all sorts of things that we raise in our newsletters. We also have the videos of people that have spoken at the meetings. So these are all the speakers, the videos of what they've done. Some are invited speakers, some are Zontians who are able to share their own climate journeys. And so we've got quite a lot of different stories from Zontians and from invited speakers. So it just gives you a taste of what sorts of things we do. Sustainable living. We have lots of different links to different products and things that people have. But we put in here that, we don't have the resources to check out the claims, but we just put the things of the different items that people can have, they can look at, and they can make their own decisions about things. We currently want to look at accreditation schemes at the moment to see what's there. We've also got the media recommendations. So this is films and books and videos, so that if people want to find a source for information, they can do so. When it comes to the actions, we've got information about how we gather the facts, why our climate is changing. And there's loads of videos, and there's also resources, the statement on climate change, different FAQs. And we do this with all of the 5 areas. How do we lead by example? Different links for different reviews and our various books and things that you can read as well. So you can see all the way through, there's loads of information that show you how you can start your conversations, different resources. And so it makes it really interesting. So you can go from no knowledge of things around climate to how you can actually take action locally, globally, etc. And how we can collaborate as well. So, oops, that page can't be found. I'll have to go and adjust that one, which all goes to show all the time you have to keep checking your websites to make sure they're still functional. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick view of the website so that you can go and look at it at your leisure. I just want to bring to your attention that next month is COP27, and there is a little video about the Gender Day on the 14th of November that the link is here. And there's also a link here to the COP27 Climate Hub, which will give you daily live broadcasts from COP27, and you can register for free updates. It's just a way of making COP27 personal and to bring it back home. So is there anything that you would like to discuss as we begin to wrap up the meeting and come to the end of the things? I've got lots of things in the chat line here, lots of mentions about WhatsApp as well. I don't know if many people use WhatsApp because how it's used varies in different countries. And so anyway, my personal preference would be to use the Zonta app if we can. And but we'll see what we can do, what things our people are able to work in. There are so many comments coming in the chat line, my goodness me. And so, okay, in Europe, we need to think of the law, the data protection and regulation before we put out material on the web. It's fair enough. So there's lots of information that we'll be able to gather and put together.
Carol,
So,
Megan and I were chatting about the Zonta app and how we can create a big work group on the Zonta app. So she's working on some things and will keep us all informed so we can all be there together.
it would be really good to be able to use the Zonta app because it is there and it's designed for that purpose. And the only way we'll get it to work is if we all use it. And it may take some learning to use it, but we can do it. It's an opportunity. And then if we can use it, we can encourage more and more Zontians to use the app, which would be great. Okay, so what we've done is we've been on quite a journey today. And from the discussions that we had, I think the general consensus was that we arrange another meeting in 1 month's time. So what I would recommend is I will send out a meeting for a meeting at the same time as this, and we'll have it for 1 hour and a half. So in 1 month's time, which would take us towards the end of November. Oh, probably the 27th of November. We'll do the 27th of November because that is the same day as COP27 opens, I think, or it finishes around that time. Anyway, 27th of November at this time we've had it today. We'll pencil that in as the next meeting and you'll receive emails to that effect. Okay, so that's the meeting for then. And just to remind you that we'll send you a link of the video of this event and also the slides that we have shared today. And I think there's lots of, oh, I see, we've got Julie says US Thanksgiving is November the 24th. Let's see. Does that mean that people would probably be away for that weekend in the States? Right. Okay. So perhaps we'll bring it forward to the 20th of November. So we'll bring it forward to the 20th of November, which is a Sunday night and or morning, depending on where you are. And we'll have it the 20th of November to avoid Thanksgiving in the States. Okay. And I just want to thank everybody today for your participation and your contribution, which has been marvelous. And it has set us up well. Thank you very much to the presenters today. You've all done a wonderful job, and I thank you so much. And thank you to all the Zontians that who have come online at all times of the day and night to be part of this first conversation for Zonta Says Now. Okay, thank you all very much, and we'll wrap it up there until we see you next time. Let's work together to build a better world for women and girls. Thank you all.